Welcome to my next Better Call Saul Season 4 episode review video. Before I get into that, though, pretty important, if you aren't caught up to the point where I am and rewatching or watching Better Call Saul, or you're just not entirely sure, then you definitely need to take the initiative and pay attention to the episode's title, which of course I'll mention as well as put in the description. If that happens to be the case, you find that you're not caught up, I highly suggest that you don't watch this detailed review to avoid any potential spoilers. And full disclosure, I've already seen Better Call Saul all the way through one time. In fact, while I was watching Season 6 of Better Call Saul, I actually did review videos of Better Call Saul on this channel as it was an airing live. So if you've already seen every single episode and you want to check those out, click right here with about 20 seconds left to go in the video. That will be the end screen and the link to my Better Call Saul Season 6 stuff. And, of course, you can see all my Breaking Bad content if you click right here, again, with 20 seconds left. So, big fan of the show. It's definitely high up on my list. I would say it's at least in the top 10. It might even be as high as 6. So, with all that said, this will be Better Call Saul Season 4, Episode 5. The title of this episode is called Quite a Ride. And this will be my review reaction recap after just finishing watching the episode. So, we actually start out in the future, but not the present. The show starts in the past. This is actually the middle part. Shortly after the fall of Eisenberg at the office of Saul Goodman and Associates, Saul retrieves a satchel full of cash from the ceiling while Francesca shreds documents. Saul breaks open the wall with the We the People wallpaper behind his desk and takes out a shoebox, which he places inside his luggage. He hands over 2 rolls of cash and a lawyer's business card to Francesca before telling her to take a phone call on November 12th. Saul offers Francesca a hug before she leaves to dispose of the shredded documents, but she scoffs and walks out. He then takes out a disposable cell phone from his desk drawer and calls Ed Galbraith, the disappearer from the vacuum store, and asking for an emergency extraction in a coded word. I want a Hoover, whatever, model. And then we go back to when the show actually takes place. Jimmy initially struggles to attract business at CC Mobile, despite the massive sign he painted on the storefront windows. After an amount of time, a pickup truck pulls up and a customer steps in the store. When the customer, the owner of the contracting business, asks whether Jimmy's services can protect him from the IRS, Jimmy offers him a disposable cell phone that he can use to communicate without being eavesdropped or tracked. Jimmy is ultimately able to sell a whole stack of drop phones to the customer. In a parking lot at Denver International Airport in Colorado, a Frenchman steps off an airport shuttle and approaches a rental car. He finds a set of keys hidden in the right front wheel. Inside he finds a cell phone in the cup holder. When he picks up the phone, it rings with a call from Mike, who gives him directions to a wooded area in the Rocky Mountains. The Frenchman drives to the location. Mike instructed by a mile marker on the side of a windy road. Here Mike calls him again, instructing him to don the hooded he left a hood stashed in the truck and stand on the side of the road with his luggage. After the man dons the hood, Mike and the driver put the Frenchman in the back of the windowless van and make a long drive to Albuquerque. The Frenchman, a structural engineer, is not allowed to remove his hood until he is inside the laundromat. He's being hired to conduct an analysis on the feasibility and work needed to excavate a new basement. He confidently concludes that he can do it in the span of at least 6 months, more time than a long, deep tunnel he once dug under the U.S.-Mexico border. His attitude makes clear that he's not suited to Mike's employer's new project and can't be trusted to keep secrets. After receiving a short phone call from his employer telling him to reject the candidate, Mike thanks the Frenchman for his time and sends him back to the rental car with a plane ticket. At the courthouse, Kim is doing public defender work. She is defending a teenage boy, David Estrada, who has been charged with throwing a cinder block through a jewelry store window. Kim negotiates with the DDA, Bill Oakley, confronting him with the fact that David was arrested based on the statement he gave to police before he was read his Miranda rights. Oakley is forced to argue to her plea agreement, giving David 4 months probation with time served. When David expresses ingratitude for getting his sentence reduced, Kim urges him to go back to his grandfather, beg for a job, and turn his life around. That night, Jimmy suggests he and Kim watch Dr. Zigvago I don't know how to pronounce that, on television, but Kim tells him she needs to review Viola's paperwork for Mesa Verde, or Viola. And Jimmy tries to watch the film while Kim does her work, but grows restless and turns the TV off. He falsely tells her that he has things to do at work despite the late hour. Back at CC Mobile, Jimmy prints out receipts, sorts cash in the register, and takes a large stock of drop phones before leaving the store. Jimmy approaches three youths in his car and offers them drop phones, but they dismiss him as a narc and tell him to beat it. Jimmy goes to Day Spa, and Nail looks through the stock of tacky clothes and dons a tracksuit. He walks up to shady characters at the Doghouse Drive-In restaurant who prove to be more willing to purchase phones, sometimes in bulk, and eventually the Doghouse's patrons quickly leave as a biker gang rolls in. Although he is intimidated by the bikers, Jimmy approaches them with the last of his supply and manages to convince them to make purchases. After the bikers leave and Jimmy is about to drive away, he is mugged by the three youths from before. Kim wakes up in the early hours of the morning to find Jimmy in the bathroom tending to his injuries from the mugging. After she treats him with ice and iodine, Jimmy criticizes himself for misreading the situation and not recognizing the youths as muggers sooner. Jimmy suddenly agrees to see the therapist that Kim recommended. The following morning, Jimmy spends the day removing this sign from the CC Mobile storefront. Meanwhile, Kim takes a taxi to the home of the woman named Denise, who is an hour late for her appearance in court over a drug possession charge. While she persuades Denise to come with her to the courthouse, Kim mutes an incoming phone call. While Denise changes, Kim receives a second call. It's Paige, who tells her an error in Viola's paperwork, or has come up with an error in Viola's paperwork that Kim is needed right away. After refusing the request, Kim hangs up on Paige before leaving the house with Denise. Later at Mesa Verde, Paige admonishes Kim for hanging up on her, and Ryan reminds Kim that she promised to put her focus solely on Mesa Verde. Kim apologizes and promises that it won't happen again. Mike escorts another structural engineer, Warner Ziegler, to the laundromat via the same blindfolded trip in a van as the Frenchman. Warner is much different from the Frenchman, as he's more unkempt in appearance and has a nervous disposition and stomach problems, and conducts his measurements by hand instead of by computer. After making much more thorough measurements of the building, particularly an area around one of the laundry machines, Warner explains that the logistical challenges of the evacuating the area beneath the industrial laundromat without compromising the building's structural integrity or drawing attention from people above ground. Gus enters and asks Warner if is the job possible. Warner replies that it will be difficult, dangerous, and expensive, but not impossible. Impressed, Gus Fring introduces himself to Warner and greets him in German, hiring him for the job. Jimmy steps into the courtroom restroom and finds Howard Hamlin, who is disheveled. Despite initially insisting that everything is fine, Howard alludes to suffering from insomnia. Jimmy suggests that he see Kim's therapist, but Howard replies that he has already seen someone twice a week. After Howard leaves, Jimmy cheers up the note of Kim's therapist and flushes it down the toilet. Later, while submitting his court-mandated PPD check-in, Jimmy lies to his PPD supervisor, denying that he associates with known criminals. When the supervisor asks what Jimmy plans to do once his PPD is up, Jimmy goes off on about how he will get his law license back, reestablish his legal partnership with Kim, and become a damn good lawyer who people are going to know about. And that's what ends this episode of Better Call Saul. So, pretty good episode. Some boring moments, though. I'm going to score it an 8.3 out of 10. We don't get a lot of other characters, and Mike didn't really have a big role other than to stand there and talk to somebody on the phone. So, Kim is going to be my character of the episode, as we don't see much of Gus. We don't see Nacho and all the other characters. Chuck, of course, died. So, you've heard everything that I have to say. Now, it's your turn if you're a fan of the Better Call Saul. Breaking Bad or El Camino, and you want to help me out with the YouTube algorithm, please consider Hulk smashing the like button, share the video with a friend, put this video on any one of your social media platforms. Don't forget to sound off in the comment section about what your thoughts are on this episode of Better Call Saul. What would you rate it, and who would you choose as your character of the episode? Obviously, Jimmy is the character of every episode, but if there's a secondary character, that's who I'm looking for. Remember, if you want to see my Better Call Saul Season 6 stuff, click right here. If you want to see all my Breaking Bad stuff, click right here. And then last but certainly not least, don't forget to hit that sub button. If you're watching the video anyway, subscribe to the channel, join the team, share it and support, and be a part of something special, and you never know what you're going to see on JDEV TV.